welcome to the new episode of Full Funnel Live. In a few minutes, my co-founder Vlad will join me, but just to give you an agenda and what we are going to discuss today, it will be all about reviewing the full funnel way of auditing your go-to-market strategy. I'm going to share with you a template so we can all use the same document, and our goal is just to go through that document and explain how to use it, what kind of insights you can generate, and how basically to leverage them later. We once published this template on LinkedIn, and I mean, not the template itself, but just the post about it, and we received quite a lot of questions, which motivated us to host this session today. That being said, sorry for moving this episode a little bit earlier today, just because of our upcoming trip to Netherlands and London. And let me know, guys, in the chat where you're all joining us from. Curious to hear, and meanwhile, I will copy a link to the template and open it on my screen so we can be all on the same page. I'm dropping the link in the chat, and I will pin it so everybody who joins the call will be able to use it. And let me share my screen to navigate you guys through the document and discuss it with you together today. Here we go. Okay, basically, here is the key. So first of all, we are heading to the Q4 of 2024, and this quarter usually means that almost every B2B company works on their go-to-market strategy for the next year, right? We believe that before planning anything, you need to understand your historical growth. You need to have a holistic overview of all of your processes. Quite often we see a completely different approach. So for example, company that is, for example, VC-backed or PE-backed receives the targets or growth targets from the investors, then the key stakeholders transfer these targets to go-to-market teams, to sales and marketing, and give them the budget, and then the teams need to figure out what to do. Often, that approach misses the overview of what actually happens in the organization. So feel free to make a copy of this template, and I will navigate you through the document and explain how we use it. I think the first one is defining these business goals, right? It's inevitable that you'll receive the targets. The key question is, how realistic are these targets? Do we have the basis, right? Based on what these targets were shared from, let's say, from investors, from stakeholders. If it's just a pure wish, you can't commit to unrealistic targets. It's funny to say, okay, we want to double this year, right? But does your sales pipeline velocity tell you the same story, right? Your revenue metrics share that you can actually double. We love to use sales pipeline velocity because it's just a pure indicator based on your average contract value, number of sales opportunities you generate per month, sales cycle length, and your win rates, right? That metric demonstrates you the trajectory of your revenue, where you're likely to be. And the next step, if you'll just use it as a basis, right, and if you'll plan the sales pipeline velocity, you can start changing different revenue metrics. Okay, so our average win rate this year in 2024 is, let's say, 30%. If we'll increase it to 35%, how our revenue will change, right? This is one of the keys. The second one, what if we are going to increase our average contract value, let's say from 100K to 125K, how it will impact our revenue? The same with the sales cycle length, right? You see that this year you had an extremely long sales cycle, whatever it could be, let's say 200 days, right? And then you start looking at the patterns Why this is happening? Well, it's because we were focusing on enterprise motion, right? But indeed, we were able to increase our ACV, but the sales cycle increased. And with the same sales cycle lengths, we are not likely to hit any revenue targets that were, let's say, presented from the key stakeholders. So this is the key. You need to play with it. You need to see what is realistically possible to achieve, and then have a frank discussion, right? Okay, this is what is possible, this is what is possible, so everybody would be on the same page, right? It's really important to have everybody on the same page and everybody understand the different revenue trajectories based on your current go-to-market performance, right? The next step, which is also important, to understand what are our current go-to-market challenges. And this requires a honest conversation from everybody. You need to involve product marketing, sales, key stakeholders to have this conversation, right? What challenges are we currently facing and why? For example, sales can tell you, we have lack of vendor awareness. Because of this, we see that our SDRs are producing low, they are facing low reply rates. They are not booking enough meetings, right? And potentially we have a very low or declining outbound pipeline. That's an example. Marketing can say that we don't have quality resources in our content team, and that blocks us to run efficient demand generation program. So we need to hire a better person, or we need to upskill our people, right, our team to produce better content. Or for example, there could be another bottleneck, another challenge. You can say that, for example, we see lack of collaboration between marketing, sales, and subject matter experts. That means that these different units are working in silos, and we can't sit down together and ensure that there is a smooth collaboration and we work towards the same goals, right? Or for example, our competition drastically improved their resources. They hired experienced people and they are literally crushing us, right? For example, they became the #1 brand, whatever, right? You need to submit these challenges, because the key point would be as well, if you are not going to solve these challenges, you are not likely to hit your revenue targets despite playing with the sales pipeline velocity calculator. This is one of the keys, right? Next, whatever you'll be planning for the next year must involve your business challenges. And what I forgot to say, right? For this specific reason, we have these columns, notes, right? Here you put all the input that you collect from your colleagues. So let me know, please, if this is clear so far, guys. Tell me in the chat, please. Let me see. For some reason, I can't see all the messages in the chat. Yeah, but anyhow, good. And here we go. Here Vlad also joined us. Good. So then we have a few more things here. Marketing goals, right? If, for example, somebody shared with you specific goals for your team, right? Again, the same way we need to look at them holistically. Based on what these goals were prioritized. For example, somebody told you, okay, we want to penetrate into a new region, right? Why? Why this is strategic initiative, right? What potential benefits our organization can gain, and how that could distract us from the current programs and current priorities that we are running. So you just need to understand this. And the same way, when we discuss the challenges, you can put these challenges here. Marketing challenges, sales challenges, etc. One of the important things, though, is to avoid setting up wrong metrics when it comes to marketing goals, right? When somebody will tell you, okay, guys, you need to generate next year 15,000 MQLs, right? We already know that we have had multiple discussions about MQLs, right? And I think, again, there are a lot of people who are questioning MQLs, but the problem is not in the MQLs itself, right? The problem is in associated playbooks and how MQLs are being measured in the organizations. So that's the key, right? But if your company, like, let's say, treats MQLs as the final metric, that is this is something that is absolutely wrong and broken, and this is something that you can't commit, right? You need to have this discussion with your team. Now, let's move to the next block, and the next block is all about new initiatives. So I see Vlad joined. Feel free to jump in.
Hello, everybody. Sorry for being late. And when we are talking about new initiatives that the team wants to start, let's say we get called in a lot of times by the clients to help them start, let's say, ABM initiative, to take that as an example, or another initiative. I wanted to comment on the new initiative. So it's, if you can scroll up, sorry, Andre.
Yeah,
Andre,
absolutely.
yeah, so that people can see that as well about new initiatives. So what's really important is to understand, okay, what are we actually trying to achieve with this new initiative, and to say, okay, we have some specific business goals and challenges, and we obviously need to make sure that this initiative fits within those. So, for example, maybe your goal is some specific revenue growth or entering a new market, or, for example, a lot of times we might have clients who are active in North America, but don't really have yet a strong foothold in the United States, and they want to expand their operations in the United States, expand their sales in the United States. So this is the goal. And then the related challenge to that is they don't really have awareness. Well, okay, how does that initiative fit into there? And we need to make sure, obviously, like, again, like if you're talking, for example, about ABM, then we need to make sure that we are obviously prioritizing, for example, accounts from that geography. We need to understand what kind of accounts make sense, because, for example, it doesn't make sense if you are not a very well-known brand in, let's say, United States or another region, to then go immediately after the largest accounts, largest enterprise accounts. It's going to be very, very difficult for you to win them. So oftentimes what we see the companies choose and works much better is, for example, going after the mid-market first. And then also how you're looking, like what you're trying to achieve with that initiative as well, has to do with the challenges and goals, in the sense of, for example, let's say your goal is, okay, you want to enter that market. This is the biggest opportunity for you, but you don't have strong foothold, but you're in a context where you need to show, for example, specific revenue growth targets to an investor. And then, for example, knowing that, oh, we want to use ABM, for example, to enter the market and go after big accounts. Well, we know that it's going to maybe be like longer sales cycles there. So if we have this like business goal to win certain amount of revenue to show to our investors, we definitely need to take that into account when we are considering initiative. And I think, like, okay, this is from our perspective as a consulting company, is understanding for the new initiative where they need help with. But I think, like, if you're doing an audit of your own team, of your own GTM and your team, it's really it's really important to understand and take a sober look at what are the kind of skills that you need. What are the kind of skills that you need? What are the kind of if you want to, let's say, start ABM, do you have the data about the target accounts? Do you need to do you have the technology that you need? Although we say always you can start even ABM, you can start with a minimal tech stack. You will need specific, we can talk about that later, you will need some tech stack. So looking at actually what is a requirement for you to be able to get there, and what are the skills that you need to acquire in order to be able to run a proper ABM campaign, for example, if that's a new initiative or demand generation, whatever that may be, is something that is really important to consider. And also, if this is a new initiative and you need to still get the budget approval, buy-in from the rest of the team, understanding these things is going to be very helpful for you when you need to present the new initiative, pitch it to get the approval, because linking it to the business goals and challenges will help you, of course, get a buy-in from the executives. You can show, okay, this is how we are going to use this to tackle the high priority business goals. But also, like, as you are requesting some resources, requesting some whatever budget resources to launch a new initiative, understanding exactly what you need, so you can basically explain, okay, look, if you want us to go after these bigger accounts, or you want us to get into this market, the skill set that we have right now is more geared towards demand generation, like more one-to-many demand generation. We don't have that experience. We don't have those skill sets. We need to acquire them. What does that mean? That means we either need to hire somebody who is, maybe we don't have a hiring budget, maybe we need to get a training, maybe we need to work with a consulting partner, et cetera, et cetera. So these are all the things that you will need in order to be able to get the buy-in as well, and to really define a meaningful initiative if this is a new initiative that you want to start. And I would say one more thing, also, like, why are you actually choosing to run, again, like ABM or whatever? And no, why do you think, let me put it differently, why do you think it will work? Like, what makes you think, do you have any sort of proof points or an indication that, okay, for example, we see that a lot of our, or not a lot, but like there are a few very significant deals that came in that mention, for example, our founders' activity on LinkedIn. I'm just saying something. Mentioned our founders' activity on LinkedIn, and we saw also that a lot of our buyers are active on LinkedIn and following whatever these thought leaders. Well, that's why we think if we are starting this initiative, we need to consider running ABM on LinkedIn. We need to consider, for example, putting some of our people, building out their personal brand on LinkedIn within that initiative, etc. So we have some proof points, some things that we learn either through studying our deals or through conversations with customers. Because, for example, maybe we had customer interviews, sales chatted with customers, and we start hearing things like, when we ask them, what are the channels or people or brands that you use, where do you hang out and learn and discover new solutions? And they maybe start mentioning specific like communities, or they may start mentioning specific, brands, non-competing brands that they follow, or thought leaders or influencers. Well, then you can use that again as a proof point, saying, okay, within our new initiative, we want to include, for example, we want to partner up with these people or these brands. This is going to be why, because this is what we learned in our customer interviews.
And just to contribute to this point, this is indeed one of the most important questions. Why do we believe that something that we have planned will actually go into work, right? Bad answer to this question would be just because our competitors are doing this. The grass is not always greener on the neighbor's side. Until you don't have a proof that what your competitors are doing is actually working, you shouldn't be doing this. They might be doing the things just because of their conventional knowledge of how the things should be done, but it doesn't mean that it is efficient, right? So you need to have this, let's say, critical thinking when planning the new initiatives. And we'll move to the third column, to the third category here, which is all about your team. And here I would love to also quickly talk about the column E, prioritization, for several reasons. First of all, here is the simple pattern that we were observing in 2023 and in 2024 as well. Companies, especially scale-ups, and smaller organizations that were not hitting their revenue targets were laying off people. Quite often that means that marketing teams became smaller, right? Sales teams became smaller, and this is basically this triggered the entire collateral about doing more with less, right? And if you look at how B2B companies usually prioritize their programs, it's usually all about everything is important, right? So when you'll go through the template, you need to make sure that only one thing in there, if you look at every, let's say, category of different go-to-market elements in this scorecard, right? Only one thing should have a high priority, not everything. You need to make sure that this is the single truth, right? Not everything should be prioritized. Now, a few things that are really important, and I know from practical perspective that most teams don't do this. First of all, what is your current marketing team and skills? It's not about, hey, we have people who can run ads or who can write the content. The question is, how good are they at what they are doing, right? It's not a problem to hire a person to for example, to run LinkedIn ads for you. But the question is, does this person entirely understands the ecosystem, right? How to set up different targeting parameters, right? How to change different formats, what works best, how to experiment with the formats, with the budget, right? With different setups. So that's really important. The same as content. It's not a problem to write like a few lines, hey, we are happy to announce that we published a new blog post, right? And then publish it on social. But nobody is going to engage with this post. So you need just to apply critical thinking of what skill set is available, right? Because the truth is, and there is no problem, there is no team that figure it out all, right? It's a constant process of improvement. It's the same what we do at Full Funnel. We always look at the areas where we feel we can kind of upskill ourselves and always gaining this knowledge, because I have a theory that the day you decide that you know everything, you start degrading from that point. So that's the key, right? Next, what is really important? Look at the jobs to be done of your team and typical day. You will be surprised if you analyze a typical week and see how many hours your team spends on the meetings where a specific person is not really required, right? And that distracts that person from the actual jobs to be done. Now, also, you can look at the performance of that person. Like, here's the typical day. What do they usually do when they start working, right? And I'm not talking about hours. It's not the key. But the point is, like, do they log into Slack, for example, and start answering multiple threads and picking up the requests, or they are focusing on specific backlog of tasks that they need to produce, their actual jobs to be done? If you'll do this analysis, I know that literally lots of companies don't do this, but you'll figure out so many areas for improvement. The same for the sales, by the way, right? What they're actually doing. Are they going through account history? Are they looking at the engagement with different accounts, right? Are they do they do meaningful engagement with their target buyers, etc.? Or they just open the CRM, see, oh, okay, I need just to do a few cold calls, etc., and it's like rinse and repeat process, right? Or it's how it's called the hedgehog wheel, right? So just repeating the same cycles without even thinking, are we doing the meaningful job? So this is the key. Just make sure that you review everything here, because just bet to me, you'll find a lot of areas for improvement in that case. And when you'll finish this, you can move to the next section, which is all about stack. Before passing mic to Vlad, I will tell one story that I'm hearing repetitively this year. Teams come to us and say, hey guys, we have fantastic technology. We invested into our stack. For example, for ABM, we have 6 sensor demand base. Then we have, for example, website personalization like Mutiny. And then we have whatever, Uberflip for content hubs, you name it, right? So the cost of that stack could be more than 200K annual. Now, the problem, though, with their comment, they say we just use maybe 5% of the functionality of that stack, and there is no real ownership. So it just was purchased, assuming that marketing and sales would be using it, but literally nobody owning it, right? So that being said, I'm passing the further story to Vlad.
I think what's important when you're reviewing both the team and the stack is also to think about alignment. And what I mean by that is very often what we see in teams, even just if you look at the marketing team and their activities as you're reviewing their quote unquote jobs to be done, is you see that different functional silos, really what they are different functions, different teams within the marketing team, or just different roles, are doing their activities completely independently from others. There is no synchronization. There is no, for example, I don't know, like a field team, field marketing might be running some events that have nothing to do with the content that is being produced by the content team. Content team is producing content, is not really related with whatever new insights that we are learning in product marketing. Demand gen is not using maybe some of these assets that are being, so there is like a lot of waste that is being introduced by this misalignment. And like one very practical thing that I wanted to share here, what I think would be very helpful is just to create a very simple calendar and put all these activities on a single calendar. So everything that is ongoing, so we are running this kind of ads every day for demand gen, and we are, sales is doing these activities, etc. But then also like planned major events, webinars, visiting these trade shows, whatever, and start to see where is that waste, where the work that's happening in silos versus, or to put it differently, where are maybe the opportunities to, if we synchronize this work from content and work from field, we can actually maybe kill two birds with one stone and get much better return with the same resources without having to increase resources. And this, actually, it's similar with Stack. What Andre was saying is that if you have Stack, but it's not properly used, configured, it's nobody's really owning this. So what this means is simply that, for example, let's say we have an ABM tool that gives us a lot of data, but this data is not being utilized. Nobody's actually checking, for example, okay, what are the new accounts that are being engaged? What are the new, what are maybe the new trends that we are seeing? Some, let's say, trending behaviors in specific accounts that we might actually we could react to and actually maybe focus on those accounts. This tool is worthless. So that being said, I think we can share the other graphic, Andre.
Yeah, there was there was a question from Lucy about ABM stack, and I think it's also just maybe makes sense to quickly discuss it, the way how you should think about developing your stack, right? Always what Vlad shared, right, about ongoing activities, what also makes sense to, when you map out this activity, think about at what is the current stage of these activities. Is it something that we are just trying, what we call pilot programs, right? It's something that we are doing for a long time, and like we are trying to make it more streamlined activity, basically operationalizing it, right? Creating clear workflows, etc. Or we are scaling it. We know that it works. We know that we have a program owner and we want to involve more people. We want to, let's say, double down on it. So we want to scale it and make sure that there is like even more impact from this specific activity. And this is the mindset that you need to apply for your stack development, right? So if you're just trying something, never ever invest into expensive technology. It doesn't mean what you're going to launch, ABM program, demand gen, client success, events, whatever, right? Just always use, let's say, if I can call it that way, cheaper alternatives, right? I mean, because sometimes not everybody wants to hear that comparison, but I mean, this is the reality, right? Just try and figure out the product that could maintain the essence of the needs that you need from that certain technology, right? For example, intent data. For the beginning, you don't need, and that's my honest opinion, you don't need to invest into demand base or 6sense just because the entire investment won't pay off, right? Use something like Dealfront, which provides you a kind of very budget-friendly solution, right? And when you'll develop your processes, you have a mature and robust ABM motion, you can just basically switch to more, let's say, more sophisticated ABM platform and invest more money. Otherwise, you'll just put a gun near your head. I mean, and your CFO will be holding this gun and asking, for the investment justification. And everybody would be asking, okay, we spend this 200K on technology where the outcomes where is our ROI, and then definitely this is not what your Samsung, this is not something that you want to be accountable for, right? And when you know that the pilot program had success, and you want to start focusing more on it, right? You want to set up a program owner who will be growing that specific motion on that specific program. Then that person could add another technology to that stack, basically improving the program performance. So this is the key. This is how you should use it. And there is, like sometimes people ask us, is there a difference between, for example, intent data tools, Dealfront, Albacross, or whatever? I mean, for us, it's honestly, these are all the same tools with the same jobs to be done. The difference might vary in the data quality, right? And some of these tools have, let's say, a better data in specific European regions. Some of these tools can provide better data in the United States. So it's up to you to figure out, but the point is the same, right? When you build your stack, make sure that whenever you buy something, there would be a specific stack owner who will be using this, who will be sharing the reports, right? Who will be sharing the data, and this is how you can leverage it. Hope that makes sense for you guys. Let us know, please, in the chat. And meanwhile, I will just share my screen back to our template. And yeah, further columns would be all about reviewing different motions. We firmly believe that any organization that has long sales cycles and high ACV should consider account-based marketing at a certain point, right? The point is that it shouldn't be a flattened decision, okay, we want to do ABM, right? You need to evaluate your readiness to drive this motion, and not only account-based marketing, anything that you plan to launch, like the story about new initiatives, you need to think about it holistically. So from the ABM readiness perspective, we have 5 questions here. So if you want, Vlad, just pass the mic to you.
Absolutely. So the first thing to understand is you should only invest in ABM if you have sufficient deal size. So we usually talk about things like 30 plus K, 50 plus K per year, at least like in a segment of your customers. A lot of companies might have even more, 6, 7 figures in some cases. If you have a complex process, a buying process or a sales process, which spans multiple months, like usually, even like more than half a year in some cases. And then if you have multiple buyers. So these are kind of like qualification. I think like the majority of people who are following this podcast that are attending this live will be in that situation. Now, having said that, if you're considering ABM, and you tick all these boxes, then the question becomes, okay, it seems like it's a good fit, but like, what do we need to have in place before we're really ready to launch ABM? And the first point here is, and just quickly read it, do we have a clear ICP and account qualification criteria? And this is the most important part, that is practical for us enough so that we can use it to build a list of target accounts or companies that are likely to buy our product. And so this is a big difference between a total addressable market and the ICP. And it's something also that evolves. And this is also why you need to review your ICP as part of your GTM review every so often after any major development in the market. Something has happened that is some significant event. Definitely, you should do this at least once a year, but actually you could do review even as often as each quarter, or at least fine-tuning your qualification criteria each quarter. And so the difference between what at this stage is a reasonable ICP for you, so the big difference is, okay, you could potentially sell to many different companies. This is your kind of total addressable market. But realistically, at this stage, in this target geography, in this kind of industries, these are the kind of companies that are likely to buy from you, which means you have some sort of competitive advantage. You have a proof, so you have sold to similar companies in the past. So it's kind of a question of like, okay, how do we replicate these best customers, these best deals? But as I said at just a moment ago, we want to see clarity to the level that will allow you to select and prioritize target accounts. Like, in other words, having like very clear criteria beyond just maybe firmographics. Let's say you're after mid-market companies, let's say between 1 and 5,000 employee headcount, or expressed in revenue, but in specific geography, in specific industry, let's say B2B SaaS companies, for example. But then like looking at the specific characteristics of those companies that will make them a better fit, or where you will be able to have a competitive advantage. So I don't know, let's say you're selling some sort of employee recruitment solution, then you might have an advantage, competitive advantage, if, for example, they might be hiring remotely. So that could be like one characteristic that you would use to qualify those accounts for your ABM program. So that's like the first check. The next one is for this kind of specific ICP that you select. And by the way, you can have multiple ideal customer profiles. That is to say, they could be in different segments, whether that's different industries or for different use cases. Like I mentioned, maybe it's SaaS or B2B tech companies, B2B SaaS companies, B2B tech companies who are hiring remotely, right? Okay, do you have a value proposition and collateral specific to that vertical and specific to that use case, which would include how you're positioning yourself? What is your competitive advantage? Do you have case studies? Do you have maybe either vertical landing pages or other specific assets for those segments? And then also, because a very important part of your ICP is understanding the different buyer roles. That's an integral part of B2B ICP for ABM, because as we said, like ABM is all about going after companies where you have buying committees or buying centers with multiple roles. In some cases, it can be more than 10 different people or 10 different roles that are involved in the buying process. You need to understand the needs of the different roles, and are you able to market to those individual roles? Do you understand their goals, KPIs, challenges, and how your solution fits? How can it help them with their goals and impact their KPIs? What are maybe their specific needs or even specific objections, and how we can handle them? The third point to check in terms of readiness is, do we have a proven process or a playbook, if you want, to generate awareness within the buying centers of those target accounts, generate awareness of the brand and demand for your product, and also go from engagement and awareness into creation of the sales qualified opportunity, sales deals, right? So do we have these processes? Do we have these playbooks? Do we know specifically what marketing needs to do, what sales needs to do? Let's say we have qualified, we have the ICP. Yes, we know how to communicate to those accounts from a specific segment. Yes, that's a check. But do we now know, when we have such an account, who needs to do what in order for us to be able to create awareness? These accounts are not aware of your brand, or maybe there is one champion that is aware of your brand, but not the rest of the buying center. Do you have a playbook? Do you have a process and like clear roles and responsibilities of how you need to do that, to generate that awareness, make them aware of your product? And then once, if they're aware, if they're maybe interested or showing some buying signals, do you have playbooks to move that account towards the sales qualified opportunity, right? The next one is, do we have a team? Like, do we have a dedicated ABM team that is not an existing team, for example, existing sales team that has their own priorities and pressure from the pipeline, and then maybe like marketing team, or let's say very often this might be like a field marketing team that gets ABM added on. And this is what you don't want. You don't want this to be an add-on to everything else that need to be. Oh, by the way, you also should be running ABM. You need to have people who can, maybe this is a very small team at the beginning. Maybe this is just 2 people, let's say half time, that don't have this external pressure, that it's not like just something that you add in on top of everything else that they need to do, especially if they have like compensation related to direct pipeline, closing the deals, etc. And now you're adding this, then it will never happen. Are you able to allocate such a resource, even if it's just like one person from marketing, one person from sales, and then also very importantly, also a content resource? And yeah, we can talk more about the different roles, but I don't want to go into too many details. But like, are you able to assign people like that, allocate these resources? And then really, really important is, do we have realistic expectations? In other words, do we have alignment between marketing, sales, and executives on what the success looks like? And also, that means very often, do we have unrealistic expectations? We have seen many companies where, they have an intent to launch ABM, and they are looking at it as, okay, a cure all, like it's going to solve our problems. We're going to be able to land these accounts. And you talk to them and they say, oh, we have a goal to increase our revenue, or land that many accounts by the end of the year. We are talking right now or in the summer, and this is not realistic, right? So do we have an alignment with respect to where we are right now? Okay, are we just starting? Then what can we realistically expect to see change within a quarter? Well, there will probably be more like leading indicators during the first quarter, such as increased engagement within those accounts, increased conversation with those buyers, booking maybe some discovery calls and maybe first sales qualified opportunities, but nothing crazy, like, especially if you have long sales cycle, complex deals, you're going after enterprise, you can't expect to see like immediate revenue results within a quarter, because that would just be like some sort of a magic bullet that doesn't exist. So very realistic expectations as well. So this is something they would use to understand. Not necessarily to say, oh, we are not ready, let's not launch ABM, but to evaluate your readiness on the spectrum of, oh, we are there 100%, and we are completely not there. We are at 0. So where are you, and what will you need? In other words, what is the gap that you will need to close before you would be able to properly run this? Or if I want to launch this in the next quarter, okay, what do I absolutely need to make sure that we do? Like, oh, ICP, we need to figure that out. Well, ICP, we have value proposition, we have done campaigns in that market, we know these customers very well, but we don't really have clear playbooks where sales and marketing work together. Okay, so this is something that we need to work on.
And the same process you can leverage for any initiative, not only limited to account-based marketing. Simple example, thought leadership, right? Seems so easy. Okay, we are going to produce the content and our team, our stakeholders, our senior leadership will publish it from their profiles. Now the point is, do we have a subject matter expert who can dedicate time to our content team and provide domain knowledge and expertise, right? Because quite often that's the point. But our SME is very busy and he or she can't actually help, right? That's one of the pieces of the story. Second one, and the content marketer comes and says, oh, for example, the content team, if you have content director, right? The content director comes and says, no, my team is busy. We're going to produce another PDF, or we have like a few requests from product marketing. So sorry, guys, I can give you just a person who can write 3 social media posts, right? That's the key. So the same philosophy you can apply to any initiative that you want to launch. Now, I would quickly move to the bottom of this, because then we'll have literally an overview of different elements, right? Go-to-market strategy, awareness and demand generation, content creation, demand capture and sales and activation, client success, account-based marketing, friction points and nodes from SME. I would just very quickly explain you the basically the meaning of column plus or minus here. It's literally the answer to your question. If you look at the first one, right? ABM readiness. Do we have clear ICP? Yes or no, right? If we don't have it, then we are not ready, and then you just write down the notes and you define the prioritization. Same as here. You go through everything. You define also maybe one question, collaboration with sales, that you need to evaluate from 1 to 5, right? How good is it? Instead of plus minus, you can just put the score here, right? And then you go through different activities, right? Awareness and demand gen. Do we have demand generation calendar? What are specific activities are we running or not running? And then basically starting from here, you can just prioritize it. Same for sales, same for client success. But here is one interesting story that, again, a lot of companies are not tracking. And I firmly believe you need to pay attention. And you need, again, involve sales into it, involve leadership. And it's all about friction points in your buyer journey, right? Nothing kills more your pipeline than these friction points. You can have the best thought leadership program, but then people come to your website. And think about from the buyer's perspective for a second. Just think about the last time you bought any product. You come to the website, you have some interest in the product, right? You come and you have zero clue what is basically the price of this product. You have your own budget, right? So let's assume you have 1K to purchase ABM technology, then you visit a certain vendor's website, and then the only way to get the price is book a demo, right? But then you book a demo, you, like, let's say SDR or account executive pitches you like 100K, which is absolutely out of your budget despite you love the software, right? So what's the point of having this qualification? I know a lot of companies are super afraid to show this price, and because competitors can steal it or because the price is sophisticated, but you can give at least price estimate, right? You can set up calculators, whatever. You can just give an idea of how the price is working. And the next one is the booking call experience and lead route. And this is really interesting, right? A lot of teams, here's what's happening here, right? The buyer comes to your landing, let's say to your landing page where they can book a demo. And then I'm not saying that necessarily everybody who is listening to this episode has this problem, but we have seen this multiple times. Then you see a long qualification form. You need to put multiple questions. Also, if you look, for example, at our website, you can say, okay, but you guys also have relatively long form. But if you look at these questions, all the questions are really important. They're just asking what kind of help you need with, right? And that's literally it. So a few open questions. So make sure that there are only questions that are absolutely mandatory. That this is not something that you can easily enrich via LinkedIn Sales Navigator or even enrichment tools like Clearbit or Clay, right? So just don't ask about the team size, because this is something that you can figure out in seconds, right? Or even better, you can just create a better description on your landing pages, who is your product for and for whom this product is not a good fit, right? Just to disqualify beforehand the wrong ICP. Now, here is an interesting story. We recently partnered with a company called Mouseflow. I will drop a link in the chat and also pin you so you guys can try it for free. And I highly recommend you to run that experiment. So if you'll install, you can use it for free for 14 or 30 days, I don't remember. But the key point is just make sure that you define your high intent pages where you have these different web forms. Install that script on these pages and then look at the patterns. I have heard from a few companies that I recommended that product. They said, okay, that was a big surprise when they see that people, come to the high intent page and they see it in the intent data. They start to fill in the form, but then they kind of become frustrated or whatever, I don't know, and they just leave it. So with this tool, you can easily see if what is actually happening, and what is also cool for your sales team, right? If you have any intent data tool installed and you have this tool Mouseflow, right, then you can say, okay, that was an account that was filling in the form but actually didn't fill it in, right? So it's an immediate signal for your sales rep to connect and suggest, to book a call manually. I remember once we had the same experience with Vlad, and that was probably when we just launched Full Funnel. Probably was the first year of business, and maybe you can, Vlad, quickly share that story, how you captured that moment and sent an email to client.
Yeah, it was actually a prospect that we've been building a relationship with them for a long time, and we had multiple conversations, and then it kind of fizzled out. They were still following us on LinkedIn, etc., but nothing was happening. We didn't really know what was happening. We weren't even paying a lot of attention. But then we noticed that they have recently visited our website and have started to even fill out the form for booking a call with us, but they haven't submitted it yet. And I just, because we had this relationship with them, I just reached out to the person and said, hey, by the way, I saw this. You don't even have to fill out the form. You can always reach out to me and tell me what's if you what kind of help are you looking for. We can always set up a chat. And he said, this is true, we just hired. He said, that's a perfect timing. We actually just hired our new marketing lead, and I think she was probably trying to book a call with you. I don't know why she was maybe interrupted, so that's why she didn't finish. But I got directly introduced with her. We booked a call, and later we actually closed that deal. We won that deal. So that was indeed important to know, right? And react on time, because I don't know, maybe she was just contacting different vendors, etc. But just because of that relationship, maybe she wasn't even aware of that. You never know. We could capture it at the right moment.
Yeah, but that's the key, right? So if you have the right data that you can look at, then you can use the signal. So again, I dropped that link in the chat, and if you can combine it with any intent data tool, right? You know that we're using Dealfront, but you can just use it with any of the tools that you're currently leveraging. And one more important point about what's happening after they fill in the form and click the button submit, right? What's happening next? Can they actually book a call, or they see a pop-up with the message, thanks a lot for your inquiry. In the next few days, somebody from our sales team will contact you. It's just the worst buying experience, right? So you'll never know, then somebody will reach out in a few days, and then until you even might forget about the intent, and you might find another solution, right? So it's definitely a lost opportunity, and it's absolutely misaligned with the modern buying process. So keep in mind this, and the lead routing is just really simple. If you don't have tools that enable the right lead routing, then you can just you can set up conditional logic that will route to different calendars of sales reps. So you can just create a universal calendar, and then a relevant sales rep will pick it up and just host the discovery call, right? And what is really important as well, I personally feel this one of the missed points is lack of product overview. That could be done in multiple ways. It could be a product overview video. There are interactive demos. Solutions like Navetic provide these interactive demos where you can kind of see how the product works, right? For me, what I personally hate, and I have seen this a lot in the marketing space, you find a new solution, then there is no product overview. It's like the entire marketing copy is full of marketing slang, which I like, despite 18 years in B2B marketing, I completely don't understand, and I can't simply figure out what this product does. What's the value? The only way to figure it out is booking the call with sales rep, which I don't want to do, right? So I think this is important, and these are the most common friction points that we are seeing, and these friction points are worth discussing with your team. And the last one block is all about interviews with your subject matter expert. Whenever you plan your go-to-market strategy, it's important to involve somebody who used to be in the shoes of your buyer, somebody who used to wear the shoes of your buyer, somebody who understands completely the nature of your buyers and can talk from the buyer's perspective, right? This is one of we always do these interviews with SMEs because they can talk about power users, their jobs to be done, right? They can even bring the data about how frequently your product is being used, right? Strengths and weaknesses of your solution, current market trends, our current level of differentiation, and to what we should pay attention to. And also, you can bring, if depending on the complexity of your product, right? You can bring also solution architects and talk to them about typical technical questions they're hearing, right? Typical business questions that companies are asking, because this all influences your activities. This all influences your copy, your positioning, the content that you're going to produce, the messaging that you are going to use in your ads, in your sales scripts, etc. Right? This is one of the keys. And when you'll have all this holistically covered, then you might come up with practical ideas for the next year. Again, I will just very quickly scroll to the above, and then you can just simply go through each of these items, right? Okay, awareness and demand generation. Do we do thought leadership or no? If no, you put no, and then you just, for example, write down notes. Okay, that could be a good initiative for, let's say, Q3 2025, right? Prioritization low at this moment, right? So content creation, do we have good workflows and processes, or it's more ad hoc, right? So here, if you'll go through this, it's like the body screening, right? The body checkup. You just go through it and you understand how good is your go-to-market strategy and what areas you need to pay attention to. Also, potentially, you can just find a lot of areas for improvement, right? That's literally the key. We have one more question to cover in the last few minutes from our community, and that was the question from if I'm correct, from who asked us from Christina about the reports and how to present the performance of our program, right, and get buy-in if our sales cycles are long. So I think we have prepared a diagram with the report that we're using. So normally we use leading indicators that are always tied to the business outcome. So if you want, we'll just quickly cover that last part about the metrics.
Absolutely. So I think the question was in the context of, especially when you are expecting results on a longer term. So it's not a short win, let's say quick win program. Leading indicators will depend on the program that you run. So if you're running, for example, program that includes your people being active on LinkedIn, for example, where they're sharing content and connecting to buyers. It will be different than if you're running, for example, paid advertising on LinkedIn, the same platform, right? So let's look at the example that Andre shared here on the screen. So one thing that we definitely want to track is the engaged accounts, whether these are engaged accounts that are visiting our whether these are engaged accounts that fit our ICP, I'm sorry, whether those are accounts from the specific target accounts list, but definitely this is what you want to track. What you can see here in this spreadsheet is also like who needs to track it and when, right? So who is responsible for this and where we find this. Unless you have this automated, you need to assign a person who is actually tracking that. So in this case, for example, every Monday, we check these accounts in Dealfront. Then we look at the number of accounts that are connected. That means, okay, we have connected with them. They have accepted our connection request. If that was LinkedIn, in this case, I believe that's what it is. So we are looking at, for example, Sales Navigator. We have a query set up there. We check accounts that we are connected with via some of the buyers and what are the number of buyers that we are connected with. And then, for example, engaged contacts in this case would mean we had a two-way conversation. We got some sort of a response for them. There was a two-way conversation. Then, for example, when it comes to, these were specifically related to LinkedIn. I would, there were another two examples from the webinar, for example, how many accounts did, for example, sign up for the webinar, attend, you could measure things like that. But eventually what you want to start measuring is number of calls that have been booked, discovery calls, let's say, and then number of opportunities that have been created, and finally sales pipeline and revenue and sales. But in terms of leading indicators, again, just to sum up, will be different depending on the program that you're running, different on the channel program. Obviously they need to be connected. They need to leading indicators lead into the end result. So we know that our sales can't really have a conversation and book a call with somebody unless they connect to them, respond to them, have a two-way conversation, and etc. If you're using webinars, then of course they need to register and come, be there, then respond maybe to your follow-up before they can, before we will have the conversation and maybe book a call. So that's an example, and hopefully provides an answer to your question.
Yeah, and with reports like this, you provide, basically you connect the dots between marketing activities and sales activities. You connect the dots between awareness and demand generation to basically to the sales part. And to wrap it up, I want to say thank you guys for the fantastic questions that helped us to prepare for this episode. And just to give you a quick notice, next week we'll skip a live session because of our live workshops in Amsterdam and London, and a week after, so somewhere that would be the week of 7th October. We'll come back with the new episode. So stay tuned. Have a great rest of the week and see you in a few weeks. Cheers. Take care, everybody.